Joining the show today is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. He's a Call of Duty Esports commentator and analyst. You can check him out on any CWL broadcast, including the 2019 Pro League, which we'll be talking on today. Chance, it's great to see you again, buddy. I'll be honest, I'm surprised that you keep coming back.
Well, you can't see me because I'm too laggy when I use my video, but we'll try to make do with audio only.
That's true. We might have tried this a few times, but we might have nailed it down this time. Just glad to hear your voice. How's the Pro League going for you so far?
Pro League's been pretty good. I think there's enough upsets and interesting things going on, as well as being a competitive division. So everything that could go well has gone well. I don't even think there's really been any production hiccups, so I'm feeling good so far. Week 1 has been a success.
Absolutely, man. And whenever I look at the Pro League, and obviously we are 1 week into Division A, my biggest surprise when we look at the standings is Midnight, sitting at the very top, 4-0. They're 12-2 in map count right now. From what you've seen from this team, obviously analyzing and commentating over them from time to time, what are some contributing factors to their success?
Best teamwork we've seen in this division. I'm not saying in the game necessarily, but they're definitely up there. Anything that could go right for them in control almost always does go right. They take difficult situations, then make the best out of them. They go down by 100 points in a hard point. They eventually make the comeback. You dish out a couple first bloods in Search and Destroy. Brack just pops a 4-piece here and there, and they make some sort of crazy play. So their teamwork is outstanding, some of the best in the game. Individual skill is actually incredibly impressive as well. Brack and Envoy, 2 players pretty much coming out of nowhere, are insane. But from top to bottom, specialist usages are always great. Their score streak usage is always great. Their setups and hardpoint. Everything they could do well, they do incredibly well.
Now, when we had our pool play video, because we actually made one for the PLQ together, I mentioned how much I liked the Midnight team because I was able to cast over, Brack a little bit in World War II. I know, and yourself as well, going all the way back to Advanced Warfare, know how talented Envoy is. I've seen Pars, and I've seen Jet Li, how smart players they are, and we've seen Alamagod ever since Advanced Warfare as well. Whenever he was on certain teams, see success. However, I didn't really expect them to get to this point. I don't think anybody did. Does this team have what it takes to be special? Whenever I say be special, in terms of the young Call of Duty teams that we've seen in the past, see so much success. We talk about Team Revenge from Advanced Warfare. Even a lot of comparisons have been thrown to this team and United from Infinite Warfare. Do you think this team has the capability to win championships or to even be in the same conversation as those 2 squads I mentioned prior?
Yes and no. Do I think they can win championships? I'm not sold at all. I mean, we didn't get to see him play OpTic with Dashy. We got to see him against United and Splice. There's too many, well, not too many. There's only a few other really good teams that I still imagine would have the edge over Midnight Esports for the moment. So I don't want to say that they can win tournaments, but they are special. Like if you look at the United we had in Advanced Warfare or Infinite Warfare, burst on the scene, handful of new players we've essentially never really seen before. And now they're like in the upper echelons of Call of Duty, and we've been talking about them for the past couple of years. That seems to be what's going to happen to Midnight. Even if they don't manage to win a tournament, which again, I'm not saying they can't. I just, until I see it, I'm not a believer. I do think we'll talk about most of these players for the next 2-3 years. They will be a staple of the Call of Duty pro scene, and they're not going anywhere. They're too good.
As someone who's incredibly passionate about the amateur scene, I'm shocked. I really am. I'm shocked by how successful we've seen some of this talent be so far in Black Ops 4, especially relating back to the PLQ. We talk about, the amount of amateur teams that make it into the Pro League, the amount of rookies that are in the Black Ops 4 Pro League this season. Do you think the contributing factor to that success is more of to do with the game, rather like 5v5 and specialists, or is it just one of those years? Like, is Black Ops 4 the reason that these amateurs are seeing success, or would it have just been a matter of time?
Probably a matter of time. I think you could toss these guys in any game, and at the very least, they would be halfway decent, like absolutely a Pro League caliber team. But this game kind of encapsulates? That's too big of a word for me. This game grabs attention for a lot of different things. You need individual skill. You look at teams that you'd imagine they're all going to be great, like a Luminosity, where just a couple players start underperforming and then their team just goes completely all to hell. It's not great. So you need individual talent. You need incredible teamwork. You literally need everything. And it's not a game where one guy can sort of carry. Like, look at what's happening with reciprocity and the hard points. Tommy's out here dropping 8,500 damage, 46 kills, and that's not even good enough for wins. Like sometimes you're getting fully streaked out and it's not good enough. You have to be good at everything from top to bottom, and Midnight is. So you could toss these guys, I would have to imagine, into pretty much any Call of Duty game. And then there might be a small drop-off. I mean, their specialist usage is some of the best, but they will still be Pro League caliber, undoubtedly.
Now, I think I might know your answer to this question, but would you agree that Black Ops 4 is more importantly about teamwork rather than slang? Like if a team that's great at slang and has little teamwork faces off against a team with little slang and great teamwork, who wins in that fight?
You're going to have to ask that question again, actually. You kind of lost me there.
It's all good.
A team with good teamwork and no slang versus a team. I would take good. Actually, ooh.
It's hard, right? 'Cause the reason why I throw this question out to you is that we go back to not just World War II, but even to Jetpack Call of Duties. And people were saying it's about the slang. Like you just put 4 guys who can somewhat work together. Like you could even throw that out there, OpTic Gaming and Infinite Warfare, at each other's throats at times. But for the most part, like just great slayers, they're going to win championships. I feel like now this year, the alternative has changed where it's a matter of you don't necessarily need those slayers. You just need the teamwork in order to make sure those results can happen. But in Black Ops 4, do you think that a team with great slang and little teamwork can still succeed over the teams that have great teamwork and not the best slang?
Well, okay. So obviously there's going to be some sort of balance. You could have the best teamwork in the world. If you can't shoot straight, things aren't just going to go well. So let's say your gun skill is at like the 90th percent of the max slider you could have and your teamwork's at 100. That team will have more success than a team with 100% gun skill and 90% teamwork, if that makes any sense. So there's some sort of balance, but even just for hardpoint, with how difficult it can be to break through 80% of the hills we have in this game, you need the good teamwork. You need good teamwork to break through. It's very difficult to power your way through. The only way the team with the max gun skill is going to win consistently is they're going to have to get fully streaked out every single game, and their specialist usage is going to have to be like outstanding. So I would definitely say the teamwork is much more important in this game because it's 5v5, because there's just so much chaos on the map, because of how much faster it is. You have to be on point with your bait and switches. Like there's very little room for error for anything.
Last question about Midnight. If OpTic Gaming has Dashy and they were to face off against Midnight right now, they were to face off right now, who wins that series?
I think OpTic Gaming, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know if it's that difficult for OpTic, man. I think they kind of just, like, honestly, probably like a 3-0. Like, as good as Midnight has been, like, I think they might still be undefeated in hardpoint. You toss Dashy into the mix, I think, OpTic at the very least edges that out. Their S&D is going to get better. They're there's no reason for me to think that OpTic Gaming wouldn't just be a dominant team in comparison.
Now, we've talked about teams who are on top. Let's talk about a few teams that are currently struggling. Chance, if you're the GM right now of Evil Geniuses and you see 0-3 in series, 1-9 in map count, an average of, or a team average of a 0.77 team AKD, which is an adjusted KD by our friends at CODStats, is now the time to think about a change if you're Evil Geniuses?
I mean, yeah. I think any team that's not in like the top 4 teams in the game are going to be thinking about a change. Even the teams that are in the top 4, because of some of the talent that we don't have in the Pro League, are going to be thinking about a change. But the problem for EG is like, who do you change? Like if you're trying to fix a 1-9 record, and just as a disclaimer, they have lost to the top 3 teams in the division. So make with that what you will, but they are getting completely bullied. So it's not like they're barely losing these games. Yeah, it's. But it's not even like it's one guy. Like Vicento is playing much, much worse than he did in the Pro League qualifier. He went from a very poor Vegas to a very solid, if not just absolutely great Pro League qualifier. And now I think he has the worst AKD in the Pro League. And I don't think it's remotely close, but then it's Goonjar and Felony are right there next to him.
Yeah.
So it's not like one guy's
the very bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is just a whole team issue. And honestly, that's a puzzle for Evan. Like, I really don't know what to do, because I don't think the solution is as simple as just dropping one player and making that 1-for-1 swap. I don't know how many players you would need to trade out before they start seeing success, but they're heavily underperforming. I expect them to bounce back a little bit, but not a lot of it.
Yeah, it's an awkward situation, right? Because it's like you said, it's like a team effort. It's like as if it's a team issue that's going on right now. And this was my issue. Like coming into the Pro League, I was one of the people out there who were saying, I think EG will be a team that struggles just because we saw Exotic have a fantastic tournament at Vegas, led the team in every single KD-based game mode. Next tournament rolls around, we see Royalty randomly have a fantastic performance. Exotic starts to go down, and then we see Facento have one of those events, which I know you remember this back at, what was it, MLG Vegas of Infinite Warfare, right? We talked about the OSA was the best weapon, and he was playing super well. And then he goes on to average 0.9 something KD throughout the rest of those events, average-wise. For EG, is there something that's been in particular? Like, you think it's just could it be an internal problem? Is it just a lack of maybe not having the right slayers in certain situations? Maybe a role problem, maybe not the right players in the Saga or the Maddox? Has there been a certain issue that you've seen with EG, or do you think it's just a team overall problem that maybe Revan might have to try to dissect, essentially?
I mean, I think the biggest issue for them might literally just be stock 2 not being in. That's obviously not going to be the entire picture, but it seems like the team is just maybe not slowly collapsed, incredibly quickly collapsed, because there's not been a bounce back. And like a play that sticks in my mind is just the, what was it? Seaside Control, I think it was. Maybe it was a hard point. Felony pulls out an Annihilator, collapses his teammates, Naga then instantly cleans everybody up with the Tempest, and like, that to me is like the 30-second clip that encapsulates, that word again. I don't know why I keep using that. That encompasses everything that's going wrong for EG. Like, they're not having problems on the map that I think are as blatant as some of the other teams in terms of poor rotations, not watching spawns. It's just they're not killing things. And if you're not killing things, you're going to get destroyed. And even their S&D, they've just been getting run over. Like, it's been tough to watch.
Yeah. Now, another team that has also started off 0-3, surprisingly, is Luminosity. Now, this is a team that I think a lot of people had their eye on to possibly be a really good team. I think that they have the ability to be a really good team, and they could also be a team who could be at the bottom, just really kind of based on the personalities that you have on this roster. I personally thought the internal problems could be the bane of the issue for this team, despite how talented the on-paper Big Three looks. With losses to, UIU, Reciprocity, and Red Reserve, is now the time to worry if you're Luminosity?
The time to worry, I think, was like on Wednesday. Like, as soon as you lose your first match, okay, no big deal, you can bounce back. You lose your first 2, already your finger's next to the panic button, and now it's just like all hands on deck. Because for those guys, I don't even know what you do. I don't know how quickly they might mentally collapse or if they can bounce back or what the deal is. But the way they play, at least hardpoint, it really just reminds me of like a really high level ranked team. It's like, generally speaking, all the players know what to do in individual situations, but as a team, the team never knows what to do. The team doesn't have a game plan of when do we watch this flank, when do we rotate back. Like, a play that really sticks out of my mind is against Red Reserve. They were playing Hacienda hardpoint. And from the rotation from first to second, literally just no one watched like the left side fence's flank. No one paid any attention to it for the entire 60 seconds. Straps just walks through like it's nothing, shoots 3 players in the back, and then boom, LG loses spawns. They get nothing. They were losing points on the first hill. And that's like a 60, 70 point swing, like instantly. And they're just making plays like that. And if you watch Midnight Gaming, for example, or Midnight Esports, 35 seconds you give them to make a rotation, they are literally set up, and those players will be stationary on the map exactly where they need to be. And that's like well ahead of time. And they just sit there and wait. They're like, this is our correct position. We've got everything covered. Even if we're not taking gunfights for the next 20 seconds, that's fine because we're already doing what we need to do. And LG has none of that.
Yeah, I feel like when you talked about the panic button, it's almost like the same thing with Nameless yesterday on broadcast, hitting the Anaheim spectator pass button. Now, if either Evil Geniuses or Luminosity were to make a change, which we're talking about, now is the time to panic, right, to an extent, who are some players to look at? And I don't mean to throw you on, necessarily like on the spot, and I'll list out a few names, and I want to hear your thoughts. Guys like Parasite have been thrown out, Decimate, Zuma, Pharaoh, Dylan, Alex, as well as Simp, right? Or I would say this, do you think any of these guys have a real chance at a possibility of being in a Pro League starting lineup before the deadline hits?
Yes. I mean, if my understanding is correct, somewhere around March 1st, the roster is just open. And like the floodgates open and you can pick up whoever you want. So I expect I'm assuming pretty much everyone you just named on that list, maybe with like one exception, to end up on a Pro League team. And like the only way I don't see them being on a pro league team is if a team like EG, let's say, if they just keep not winning and they're like, hey, Zuma, you want to come play for us? And Zuma would be like, I'm good, man. Like, thanks. Like, that's okay. Y'all are 0-7. I'm not trying to join. So that's the only way I think one of those guys doesn't come on the team. And if you're asking me about like LG specifically, if they make a change, that's a tough question. Because like, I know a lot of people have been saying move formal to a Maddox, pick up a new ICR. That changes the dynamic completely. Do you think like your SOG players on the team are underperforming, or your SOG players are underperforming? Do you want to switch out 1-for-1 with the SOG and just pick like Simp Up, for example? There's a ton of different things that they could do. And I think a team like LG needs to think about it very, very carefully if they want to make a trade, who they want to get. Because I don't know how many cracks you get at making a roster swap, but clearly team chemistry is important in this game. And that's not a decision to take lightly.